Hello and welcome. India's 191 billion information technology industry is going to face some stress like the rest of the industry, which includes manufacturing, services, and so on, thanks to COVID-19. However, the Indian IT industry has perhaps adapted and adopted pretty rapidly and pretty admirably, some might say, given the fact that most of its businesses are driven by people who are usually sitting in offices, but all of them have been shepherded back home and are working from home. So the figure, as I understand it, is almost 4 million people have been working from home in the last month or so. Now that's something that is an interesting feat in itself, but equally begs the question, what's going to happen now? Not just to the industry, but also to the way this industry works in this country. To join me to answer that and a few other questions is Debjani Ghosh, President of the National Association of Software Companies, NASSCOM. Debjani, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Govind. Pleasure. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Right. So tell us, the lockdown is going to partially lift next week, and 50% of the Indian IT workforce can go back to to their offices and complexes and so on. So is that likely to happen? What's your sense?
Definitely not 50%. The NASSCOM guidance and, the last few weeks, I have had very detailed discussions with most of the industry leaders. We are going to adopt a very well thought through phased exit approach. Two things, Govind. I think most people believe that as soon as the lockdown is lifted, it's business as usual. Everyone can go back to business as usual. That is so not the case. Absolutely not going to happen. What we cannot forget is that the virus will continue to exist. We humans have to adapt and learn how to coexist with the virus. That's the challenge ahead of us, right? Mm-hmm. Now, what the lockdown is doing, and first of all, extending the lockdown was not not an easy decision. It was a tremendously difficult decision. And I actually give a lot of credit to the government for taking that decision because sure. I think it will pay off huge in the long term. What the lockdown is going to do, and all fingers crossed, is it is going to stop the accelerated rate at which the virus was spreading. It is going to bring about some level of containment. Once the lockdown is lifted, we cannot do something that will again speed up the spread of the virus. We have to behave with a set of protocols to ensure that we continue to contain the spread. Right? And that's going to be the new norm, which, not just for businesses, but for you, me, everyone, how we exist. Sure. No one is going to live the same way. Social distancing is not going to go away anytime soon. Travel is going to be significantly restricted because you don't want to, conferences, any large gatherings, you will not, or you should not be exposing yourself to the risk of getting infected without taking due precautions. So for the industry, the biggest challenge right now for us is to figure out the post-lockdown protocol. What does it mean? How do we ensure that there is adequate social distancing protocols in place, not just at the workplace, but when our employees are commuting to work, when our employees are going down to the cafeteria, whatever it be, right? But every aspect of work, how do we ensure the right protocols exist? How do we ensure that we use technology effectively to monitor the implementation of this protocol and any kind of risk that comes up? Because there will be risk. There will be one or two cases that will come up. We have to be ready for that, right? How do we react to it? How do we ensure that we handle it the right way? And right. I was talking to Kiran Shaw this morning, Kiran Mazumdar Shaw, and she made a very important point. She said, when there is a case, there is no need to shut off the whole office. You have to contain that area, and everybody who's been in touch with this person should be quarantined for like 6 or 7 days, by which you get to know. And then you figure out how you want to get them to work or what is the next step. So these are things we have to learn and get very intelligent about, because honestly, the biggest challenge in front of the industry is how do we coexist? How do we coexist with the virus? Horrible. It sounds absolutely horrible, but that's the new
Right.
reality for us.
Right. So,
Yeah.
on the supply, on the demand, I'll come to the demand side in a moment, but obviously there are going to be demand side stresses as well. The banking industry, retail,
Tremendous.
internationally, and I'll come to that in a moment. But how are we as an industry, and how is the Indian IT industry? For instance, let's say, forget what happens on the demand side, but is the Indian IT industry able to function at, let's say, close to full capacity as it was even a month ago in this new work from home environment?
More or less, and as you know, the Indian IT industry is not a homogeneous industry. There are several sectors within the industry. The sectors which did not depend too much on a shift system has been affected very little. They've been able to continue pretty much business as usual as long as they had the ability to keep the essential staff in campus to manage the critical services. Now, there is a part of our industry like BPM, etc., which has the shift system, right? So if you look at it before this crisis, they were working at around a 1.8 efficiency rate, where you would have not just multiple shifts, but sharing of desktops across shifts, etc. All that came into play. Now, in a work from home scenario, you cannot do that. Right. So that 1.8 would have come down. Now, my guess is to something like 1. So while we have moved people home, but some of these sectors, all 90% may not be fully productive. Right. So you would have maybe around 70-80% that's productive and 20% that is not. What we are doing currently today as an industry is we are putting a lot of focus on reskilling, putting this 20% through a lot of trainings and other classes to ensure that we can use this time to build skills. But if this continues long term, and this is more on the supply side, I'm still not talking about the demand side. The demand side is another ballgame.
Yeah, so tell us about the demand side. I know it's early days, but from whatever the kind of conversations that you've been having and the sense that you're getting, what is it looking like?
We are a global industry. Our fortunes are so strongly linked to what happens with the global economy, right? As you well know, nearly 70% of our revenues are linked to what's happening in US, UK, Europe, etc. I think everybody, and IMF has come out with it, I think everybody is expecting a slowdown, the global economy to take a downward dip. And as that happens, it'll definitely impact us, right? Now, what that impact is, we are yet to figure that out, because there are two things that's going to happen. There are going to be some sectors like travel, etc., which will go down significantly. But we are also going to see a few sectors, whether it is health, analytics, education, there's quite a few sectors which are going to start using technology much more than they had used before. And we are going to see a lot more sectors adopting digital than what they had done before. So there are going to be opportunities on one side, and there's going to be loss on the other side. I think as an industry, what we are trying to do is look at it as a segmented strategy to figure out what is going to go down, what is going to come up, and how do we manage our portfolio and resources to minimize the net impact on us.
Right. And so if from what you said earlier, the BPM, business process management, or what was traditionally called the business process outsourcing industry, is more affected compared to traditional IT sources.
Primarily because of the shift system, etc. But see, again, that is on you have to separate the two, right? That is efficiency. Now, with 50% being allowed to go back to work, though we may not be 50%, we will not be 50% right up front. We will still do it in a phased manner. But let's say by end May or June, we are at a stage where 50% is back at work. So we will definitely be able to improve the efficiencies that I talked about pretty significantly, right? But the demand side is another story. And this
Sure.
is where this will affect everybody. And this is where we have to look at, and I think we as an industry have to do a reprioritization of our portfolio. We have to
Right.
look at what is going to be the incremental or the additional opportunities, and try to ensure that we maximize those to the best.
Right. And if you were to look back, and again, from your own takeaways or takeaways from others that you're speaking to, what would the key ones be for this period, and the impact or the lessons that it has taught us in terms of the way life will be or business will be after COVID settles down, hopefully, if it does soon?
I think we are entering a hyper digital world. There's no other way to describe it. I mean, we've all been talking about how technology has transcended across every aspect of work, life, play. I think we had been paying a lot of lip service to it. We had been saying it because it sounds nice. It's only now that we have realized how true that statement is. And I strongly believe that we are going to see a much stronger integration of technology across pretty much every aspect of life. And that is going to create a lot of new opportunities for the industry. That is also going to create a lot of new challenges, but those challenges we welcome, because it will require a significant amount of reskilling for us. It will require changes in our business models. It will require changes in our entire customer interaction. We may not be able to sit in front of the customer and do the work, but the use of technology to keep up the customer interactions, etc. So it will change the way how we behave. But these are all good challenges and good changes as long as the opportunities exist. So in short, Govind, I think business, how we did it, how we conducted business in the past, is going to go through a major rehaul. And technology is going to be the biggest disruptive force. We've always been saying it, but now it's going to really happen. And the companies that are able to quickly figure out how to best use technology, I mean, it's not just use technology for scale, but use technology for personalization, use technology to get in front of your customers. Stay close to your customers. Those who are going to win or emerge stronger are the ones who stays extremely close to their customers.
Yeah, so I was talking to one of your member companies, TCS, and their cyber head was telling me just a couple of days ago that earlier when you talked about disaster recovery or disaster management or preparing for a disaster, it always meant moving from one site to another. No one ever thought that you would actually move, in their case, over 100,000 people home, or rather, their desktops or laptops, which they took themselves and worked out of home. So this is a completely new paradigm.
Absolutely a new paradigm. And I honestly don't believe, I could be wrong, and I'll be happy if I'm wrong. I'll be very happy if I'm wrong. But I honestly don't believe that, the virus is going anywhere anytime soon. Until not just a vaccine is found, but it should be affordable and readily available so that each one of us can get the treatment. But till such time that happens, I actually believe we are going to embrace something like a 50-50 model. I don't think we should not go all back to work, because then we will not be able to implement the social mandate, social distancing protocols, etc., that is required to ensure we have a safe workplace. So yes, so there's going to be some pretty big changes.
Right, and that's a good note to end on, and always a pleasure talking to you, Debjani. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Govind. Stay safe and
You
take
too.
care. Bye.
You too. Thank you.